Hey, I'm Jonathan, and I live in London, England.
Hey, I'm Jeff, and I live in Perth, Australia.
Together, we are Ekko and Sidetrack.
We produce music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between the giant space that separates us.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack. This week's episode of A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack is brought to you by Short Order Burger Co. There's one shop in the city and one shop in Fremantle. Use the code word REUNITED for 10% off your order in stores only. I used to work at Short Order in Hay Street, and I enjoyed my time there, lots of laughter, but most of all, we made fucking good food. Luckily, that didn't change when I left. They continued to make fantastic food. So, yeah, go down, enjoy a burger, say hi to the guys, give them our love, give them your love, and use the code word REUNITED for 10% off, in-store only. Tell them Ekko and Sidetrack sent you. Give them a wave, give them a finger point, or a thumbs up. Everyone that works at Hay Street loves a big old thumbs up from a straight arm. Our first Perth headline show, Ekko and Sidetrack Reunited, is on the 22nd of May, and tickets are still on sale. This is our first show back together in Perth, and we bloody can't wait for it. We've been very busy finishing off music for it. It will be a night to remember, and you can actually use the discount code for tickets now. Our code is Ekko Sidetrack, all capitals, so use that at checkout for a discount on tickets, and we'll see you there in 3 weeks.
Big up.
Welcome back, dear listener, to the second edition of the Together Again podcast.
We need to do a new intro.
Not today, we don't.
No, not today, but we need to create a new intro for the podcast. I was thinking about it the other day and how we could incorporate me being back here into the intro.
I liked the one you did where you just said, is in hotel quarantine, and overdubbed it over the top. I think you could just put, is in Perth temporarily, over the top of this, the same thing.
Yeah, because it's still the same podcast. So we're still talking about the same things.
It is. All sorts of things. The wide-ranging views of Jeff and Jonathan Hansen. What did you want to talk about today, buddy? Do you have anything to talk about?
No, nothing really on the agenda. I mean, we can do a little bit of catch-up if we wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I have...
And you've got some stuff you want to talk about.
I had a story, yeah. Something funny happened to me yesterday, and I wanted to get your take on it.
Okay.
Whether you think it's like, I don't know, I thought it was like a weird piece of karmic resonance, and I want to know how you think this thing kind of like fits for me, like where I fit into this thing.
Okay.
So I was doing my coffee deliveries, as I do every Tuesday.
Yep.
And I was driving along a street, and I approached a T intersection which had a bunch of cars lined up in front of it. So everyone was waiting at another intersection, but they were like blocking my way. I was happy to wait. The car in front of me, 2 young guys in it, he like looked at me and then he started reversing, and I was like, oh, this guy's going to let me through. This is useful. So I, looked left and then pulled out to turn right. I gave him a shucker, and as I was giving him the shucker, I just saw him keep on reversing. Then I hear a beep, and he was obviously not paying attention, and he backed directly into the guy behind him.
Ooh.
Because he let me in. I drove off, shucker flying, and felt so bad.
Did he not stop because he was looking at your shucker?
I have no idea if the shucker was so transfixing or what was going on, but I remember I just looked forward and was like, oh, but I didn't ask to be the space to be allowed, and there was definitely more than enough room just to back up like a normal person, did not just like keep rolling back.
Yeah, no, that's definitely his mistake, and you shouldn't You did the right thing. You didn't. It's not like you had to stop and be like, "I'm sorry, I kind of retroactively caused that by needing to come through it." That's just a mistake on his behalf because he's probably not aware of how long his car is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. I just thought it was an interesting piece of like...
That would have been something karma for him.
Yeah.
To be like, I'm doing something good. Ugh, I got fucking
He looks like
punished for it.
He looks like the kind of guy that may have done some bad things in his time.
Do you believe that to be the way the universe works?
Potentially. I reckon if you do more good, then more good will come your way.
Yeah, definitely.
And
reciprocity? Is that the word?
Maybe.
Reciprocity
is the way you pronounce that word.
Yeah, I think it's reciprocity. It's basically like you do good by others. Reciprocity might be more of a financial term. I'm not too sure, but you kind of do good by others and then they will do good by you. It's like practical karma, essentially.
Yeah, I also think like it's like those little things that if you edge the world into a more positive place, the world would be a more positive place. But if you edge the world into a negative place, the world would be a more negative place.
Yeah.
Like if you frown at everyone, everyone's going to frown at you. And then you'll be like, everyone's grumpy today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some people do walk around with the concept because their inner world is angry or aggressive. The whole world is like that. That's why it's really important not to get stuck in moods. I say with a sigh, as I felt I was in a mood yesterday.
You were in a bit of a mood yesterday.
Yeah, last night I was in a bit of a mood. I think I woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
That happens.
And I was just in a bit of just having a funky day, which I think you do have. And it's probably about time that I had one. I feel like I have a funky day every 10 days or so. But I went for a run in the rain, and that felt good. And that kind of unwound me a bit. But yeah, if you get stuck in those frame of mind and kind of if you project anger, frustration and sadness and that type of thing, it's almost like you're projecting that onto the screen of the world. So that's what you see back. But it's interesting. I mean, we've done this experiment, just smiling at people in a shopping center. And everyone is kind of walking around with this busied look or this thinking look. And then when you smile at someone, that kind of knocks them off their axis and they kind of and then they smile back to you.
It's like saying, rather than saying when you walk into a store, you know, they're like, hey, how are you? And not giving a response, you go, oh, I'm doing pretty well today. Good morning. How are you? It's like it knocks them out of their operating system.
I've like saying, what's been the best thing about your day so far?
That's a good line.
It's a hard one to remember. And also sometimes, especially with masks now, sometimes people don't hear that
for sure
sentence of words and they're just so used to hearing. They're almost like they block it out to some extent because they're so used to hearing like, hey, how are you? Good. How are you? Good, thanks.
It's like, yeah, just do the dance, read the script.
How many times do you reckon that's said every day? Those 3 words, just in Australia.
A baffling amount.
How are you? Good. How are you? Great. Thank you. Or just, how are you going? I was out the front the other day with Dad and some guy walked past and he was like, how you going? And Dad just goes, how are you going? And they said nothing else. Yeah. And it was just such a clear cut example of how Australians ask questions as a greeting and don't expect a response.
Yeah. Pretty classic Australianism, I'd say.
Yeah, that's quite funny. But yeah, the karma thing. Have you ever done something that you've felt as soon as it was done, you're like, I'm going to sow that I'm going to reap something negative from this?
Yep. I realized I had to undo it pretty quickly.
Are you comfortable telling the story on the podcast?
Fuck it. Yeah, what is a podcast if it's not for sharing a story about the things you've done and the things that happened to you?
We can beep out some names.
When I was younger, this is just what first came to mind. When I was younger, I lay with a woman that I should not have laid with.
Oh.
And she was kind of seeing my mate at the time. She was seeing my mate at the time, but they weren't like boyfriend and girlfriend. And then we both got really drunk at the party, and I clearly made a decision to go home with her when there was an option to like get out of the cab beforehand. And I kind of knew what was happening. Like I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to sleep with this girl. That's kind of what I want. I want to soothe that lusty burn.
And you're also doing something bad. You're not supposed to do it. It's hotter, that increases the fire.
Yeah, it's funny you say fire because we did sleep together and it wasn't that great. And I just remember thinking, like, almost, like 3 minutes later, I was like, as I roll over, like, still drunk, I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, not only did I, like, hurt a good mate and betray him, and I felt instantly bad about that, but I'm pretty sure I got a fucking disease right now.
Story I know all too well, my friend.
So, like, yeah, and almost like the next day, I remember getting a taxi home, or maybe you came and picked me up, or something happened, and I was just like, something is wrong, and I need to go and see a doctor. And also felt massive guilt, and I realized then, hung the fuck over, feeling very uncomfortable in my groin, that I also had to go and approach my friend and admit when he came back from where he was,
which was the past.
I
cheated with a time traveler.
When he came back from where he was, 1877, I had to approach him and tell him about it and own up to it and get my comeuppance.
Yeah.
Whatever that was, but I had to be honest. Yeah. Because I needed to get rid of this feeling.
Yeah.
But then I proceeded to contact a mate who has a doctor in the family, and I wanted to try and arrange a booking, an appointment with her to get some
a private booking
to get some medicine for what I assume was the and some people don't get symptoms.
Hashtag safe sex.
Yeah, and I had symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And just a super uncomfortable feeling in like bladder and things like that. But I remember talking to her and her being like, "Is the appointment for you?" And I'm like, no. And I'm like, she doesn't know my brother. I'm just going to say it's for him. And so I threw you under the bus with all of my gusto. Again, not a very moral mood.
And really, when's the karma going to hit you back for all the bus throwing you've done?
So I do that, and then I come clean with her when I see her. I'm like, it's actually for me. And she's like, you should have just said, either way, here's some medicine, take 2. And I went to the pharmacist and I got them, and I took 2 and I felt a bit nauseous, and then it was over, 3 days later. Then probably 4 days after that, I approached my mate and I said, I have to speak to you, and I came clean. And I said, if you want to punch me, you can. If you want to do anything. And he took a little bit of time to compute it, and he was like, wow, thank you for coming to me with this. Like, it's probably actually, man, if she was going to do that, then I don't think it was a worth.
You did him a favor.
I don't think I did him a favor. I think that would be framing myself in a really positive light.
Yeah. No.
But, and then he was like, I love you, and like, I forgive you. And it's like, if I had have kept it hidden, it would have been far more damaging. But I knew that I had to recorrect the balance as soon as possible, not only to my friendship, but also to my body.
And then did you speak to her again?
Maybe traded a few messages and was like, I've said something, and she's like, "Why'd you do that?" Like, what's
Okay.
it? And then
like
I was
to talk about the
yeah.
the
Oh yeah,
medical
I
thing.
also told her that I had the clap, and I'm like pretty sure she was a carrier. Again, like the doctor was like, we can send an anonymous message and stuff. I'm like, no, I'll tell her.
I think having those moments, those uncomfortable moments with your friends, is they test friendships. It's like pressure testing your relationships.
Yeah.
They can either break them or they make them a lot stronger.
Oh, for sure.
It's like it's a good thing to have not arguments with your friends, but like strong disagreements and moments where you don't like each other, or some person is asking for forgiveness, or kind of these uncomfortable things, because it shows that there's like an emotional maturity to the actual relationship. Like I know I recently had to do something. I acted in a way that would benefit me and my own agenda.
Is that when you pushed that kid down the stairs yesterday?
Yeah, fuck that kid. No,
Get out of my way. I want to buy the sneakers.
I did something which I still think was the right decision, but really hurt one of my friends. And I recently kind of apologized to them and listened to them and really did understand how they felt and how it would have felt from their position.
Yeah.
And it made me feel sheepish and a bit like, well, in the future now I know not to make the decision I did. And it kind of made me understand more my own feelings and boundaries, as well as understanding theirs. And I don't necessarily think our relationship is back to what it was, but I do believe it will be stronger afterwards. And I think those blips are kind of important, because a lot of people worry that, you know, if you say something to a friend, or if you, I don't know, say some harsh truth to someone, that they're going to turn around and be like, fuck you, I'm never coming back. But really, saying those things and maybe making a person angry or upset for a split second will be something that one day they maybe thank you for and appreciate your friendship more, because you were the one that told them a truth, or you were the one that said what was the uncomfortable thing to say at the time when no one else was willing to say it. I don't think I did that in this instance. I think I was being a bit selfish and looking out for myself, which I wanted to do, and I'm not particularly good at. And that's why it's me kind of testing the waters of...
You're seeing how that machine works.
Yeah. And I'm, just as you tested how that machine works...
He just pointed at my groin.
That you now know that, one, it fucking sucks to betray a friend. And now you know you can never do that again.
Mm.
And, it's not worth it. Especially when there's... usually sex involved or something like that. Like, you've learnt that lesson, and facing up to it will cement that in your mind of being like, well, I now just face my problems head on, rather than, and this is the term Jeff and I use, backing out of the butcher shop.
Backing into the butcher shop.
Backing into the butcher shop, which is backing out of an uncomfortable situation and not rising to the occasion.
Yeah. I think sex is interesting, because sex, like, whether it's cheating kind of sex is so fleeting. People think it's going to, like, satisfy their wildest dreams and stuff, but really it's the preamble and the excitement that leads up to it.
Yeah.
The actual act often leaves you feeling...
empty.
Yeah.
Empty and sad and gross. It's really an act that is completely driven by hormones and the rush of it all. You can get as much rush by
masturbating in public.
Yeah, something like that, or like I don't know, doing something,
skateboarding down a large hill.
Yeah,
no,
while masturbating.
Yeah, in public.
But yeah, that it's never worth it. It's
only
any of those things where you're satiating a hunger that does not have longevity to it. It's like fucking seeing a cookie. We saw a cookie this morning.
junk food.
Seeing that
life.
cookie and being like, man, that fucking cookie's so good. It's gonna be so good. I'm gonna eat it, and then you eat it, and it's mouth pleasure for like 3 minutes.
My
at
teeth
max.
hurt.
And then your teeth start to hurt, and then you get tired, and then you start to get agitated because you're on a sugar rush. That's what sex is. That's what.
Not all sex.
No, sorry. That's what
cheating.
Scandalous
sex
is. Cheating or, you know, that type of bad motivated stuff.
But I think, bad motivated stuff. I think that taught me a lesson. It's a lesson I've kept with me, and it's a story I'm happy to tell because it's not something I'm proud of, but it's an inflection point.
Yeah,
it's a time I changed some stuff.
Yeah,
and it's like I realized, because my moral compass is pretty good, I think, that I had done a bad, so I'd knocked it into bad territory. If I'd continued to make a few bad decisions, bad would have been easier to do.
Yeah, or even justified your decision to do that.
Yeah, I could have more easily made bad decisions. The universe would have provided with more bad decisions. I think the universe often provides you with a choice, and then it goes, whatever decision you make, now you can get out of it. It gives you chances to make up's the wrong term, but like get back into the neutral or good zone.
Yeah.
But you have to rise further. Like think if neutral is 0 and you get knocked down to -3, you have to make up 3 points to get back to 0.
Yeah.
But if you're operating at 5 in the good zone, the positive zone, if you lose 3 points by doing something bad, you're still at a 2, potentially.
So the lower you get, the bigger the maybe gesture or the apology or the grandeur of the redemption act has to be.
Yeah.
So
and it might not even be able to be done in one go.
If you'd been cheating on your wife and you've been cheating on her for 5 years, you're just losing points until the day comes where she catches you cheating and you've got another relationship on the side and you're at -50 and
500.
suddenly you're 500 and your whole family fucking falls apart. Instead of if the first time you cheated, you go down -3 and then you go to her and say, look, I cheated, I slept with this girl, face up.
It's because of this. We need to look at this, and I'm sorry, and
try to redemption. That will then bring you back to the good books.
Yeah, but as you go further down the bad scale, it's easier to make bad decisions because that's what the universe will provide with you. Like, oh, you're kind of happy to make these easy. Not evil is a strong term, but bad decisions. Weak decisions. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because it's not. It's an easy. They're easy. I feel like a weak decision is something where ethically you're doing the wrong thing.
And you do know.
You do, of course you fucking know. But there's the little kind of gremlin person that's just a bit like seedy. I feel like there's like a fucking TAB dog in all of us.
TAB dog?
Oh,
what did the dog do wrong?
No, just like someone that hangs out at the TAB.
Oh, a dog is in person.
Heaps and just like kind of a bit shifty, the kind of like just a shifty person.
TAB, for anyone listening outside of Australia, is the betting place.
And that's probably a generalization. I'm sorry. It's not a good generalization, but there's always like there's a shiftiness, a greasy person inside all of us that gets greasier the more you go into the bad.
The more you submerge yourself in the grease.
Yeah. It's similar to exercise. If you stop exercising and have a bit of sugar one week, you put on a bit of weight, and then you're like 5 kilos over the weight you want to be, and then you're like, well, I'm 5 kilos over, I may as well just fucking keep eating the croissants, and then that bemes your normal, and then you're like 30 kilos over your normal weight, and the retribution or the redemption of
is further away.
Weight gain is further away, therefore it gets harder, and then you just kind of accept the position you're in. And that's not pointing out overweight people. It's That's to do with anything. That's to do with skills. That's to do with self-improvement. That's to do with anything. It's very comfortable to just lie down on the ground and exist rather than standing up and fighting.
Mm. Yeah, it's a nice way to summarize. What was the last thing you fought for?
Freedom? No. What do you mean fought?
You're the one who just defined it.
I
I don't know. Fought for, stood up for.
Last night when I ran.
Yeah, that was a strong move. You were clearly in a funk. You didn't want to talk to me about it, and you just I just saw you put your shoes on, get ready, and
Run into the night.
run into the night.
And I was running angrily as well. I was like running quite hard. I think I was like I ran the first 2Ks in 4Ks an hour, which is pretty fast for me.
4Ks an hour.
Yeah.
That's super slow.
No, not 4Ks an hour. I don't know how it's measured. I remember being like, I was under 4
You would have
for
been
running. So it was a 4 minutes. Sorry, 4 minutes. A 4-minute kilometer.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I ran a 4-minute kilometer
That's fast.
for the first 2.
Yeah.
And then when I know it, and I was my chest started to hurt and I got quite tight because I'm more unfit because of quarantine and stuff. But I was really pushing and feeling kind of angry and felt the battle between the person that just wanted to stop and just walk, or the person that wanted to go home because it was raining a bit. And then me, the true me, who was like, fuck, this is how I get out of my funk. It was like an inner battle.
Yeah.
I can't. None come to mind. But I wanted to ask you, can you think of any other inflection points? So you said that was an important inflection point in your life when you had the
a bit of an epiphany.
Yeah, the epiphany with the incident with the girl and your friend. Can you think of any other epiphany moments or inflection points that you felt that you can trace back to changing your life?
I think there's a few. One that came to mind recently as I was back in Sydney. Shout out to the Sydney Massive.
Big up.
Was not it's definitely wasn't the last time I was in Sydney. It's when I went to Sydney by myself for a show. Like, you know how we used to take turns in going? And I went to Sydney and played. I can't even remember where I played. Either way, went to Sydney, played. And you weren't there. And I went and had dinner with Trish and Sam and Dylan.
Big up Blaine Stranger in Rollston.
And
Trish.
I remember being like, oh, we're cutting it pretty fine. And then being like, did you check in already? And this is very unorganized Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is 5 years ago or so. And I hadn't checked in. And they're like, what? No. And I go, I've got no luggage. It doesn't matter. They're like, yeah, but you should have checked in. At least they need to know you're there. I arrived at Sydney Airport and there were no desks open. And it was 45 minutes before my plane was about to take off. And I ran up to the desk and I looked for someone, and there was a chick sitting at Virgin, and I was flying Jetstar. But there were no Virgin flights open. And I was like, excuse me. And she was like, oh, no, I can't check you in. I can't. And I was like, what do I do? And she goes, I don't know. And I go, have some compassion for a human. I'm running extremely late for this flight just because it's not your airline. I need you to give me a straight answer. What would you do? And she's like, whoa, fuck. Just go to the gate. And I was like, fucking hell. So I ran. And it was all the way at the end. If you know Sydney Airport, there's 2 wings to it. It was all the way at the one that's as you come down the escalators at the food court. It was right And I ran all the way there, and people were like milling around, maybe starting to board. And I ran up to the front and I said, "I'm so sorry." And it was super like polite and everything. I was like, "I haven't booked, I haven't checked in, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Oh, I don't think we can do anything for you, but give me a few minutes." And then she was actually sorting someone else who had not checked luggage, and they had like a 30-kilo bag that they needed to that they weren't going to be able to put under the thing. So I had to go, or maybe they had to do that. I don't know. They had to deal something with that. I saw that woman pay some excess baggage right then and there with her card. I was like, okay, maybe I'm just going to have to pay a fee. I can do that. Then she turned around to me, and more people are boarding. There are probably like 30 people not on the plane as they boarded, and I was like, "Hi, yeah, I'm the guy that hadn't checked in." She's like, "Yeah, unfortunately, we can't allow you on the plane. Like, literally, you're not on the manifest."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What? Like, I need to be home." And she's like, "No, I'm sorry, we can't do. There's nothing we can do. We can put you on the next available, and I can take your payment now." And I'm like, "Fuck, maybe I'll just fly with another airline, And then she was like, "Let me get everyone boarded, and then I'll come back and sort this out." And I'm just sitting there going, I need to be home because I'm going to get home tonight, and then because I've got work tomorrow.
Yeah.
My boss has already been very flexible, allowing me to have some days off. I need to be at work. Shit. And I just started stressing. I called my girlfriend at the time. She offered to pay for a flight. Bless her. I said no. And I said, I'll just transfer on to the next one. If not, I'll get the Qantas flight in the morning, which still means I'll arrive. And then said I'll call her back. I went back to the lady. Lady was like, "Okay, we can put you on the Qantas flight in the morning." This is a very long preamble, by the way, to get to the
This is a
inflection
very long,
point.
very long preamble.
I missed the flight, but the next thing, the kicker was what I'm getting to is that Jetstar, she was like, "You can get on the next available." And I'm like, "Cool, in the morning on Jetstar." And she's like, "No, we fly on like Sunday night and Wednesday." And I'm like, "Till Wednesday I can't get there?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's when the next available, which we can do right now for $100, or you can pay on Qantas and pay like $600 to fly tomorrow." And I didn't have $600. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm genuinely stuck. Like, whoa. So I paid the $100, called my boss, left a message, felt so stressful, really stressed out. I recalled Dylan, and he was like, "Whoa, man, that sucks. Like, I can come back to the airport and get you. You can stay in my apartment. I'm not staying there at the moment. I'm with my girlfriend." And so that was incredibly helpful. I appreciated that so much. And he was like, "Yeah, man, like," he's like, "Yeah, it's kind of like a bit messy at the moment because I'm in the process of moving out, but you can stay here as long as you want." The next 2 days were great. Hung out with him, stayed in an amazing little spot in North Sydney. Like, we did some music, we hung out, but I had to call my boss, and my boss was clearly fucking annoyed about it. I was like, this is going to cost me. Like, there's no way to get out of this. Like, I felt super uncomfortable. Either way, flew back, landed on Wednesday. He said, don't worry about coming tomorrow. Just come in on Friday. Actually, just come in on Monday. We'll just start the week fresh next week. And I came in on Monday, and he said, "I think we need to have a chat." I'm like, fuck, I knew this was coming. And then he made me redundant. He's like, "There isn't much work going on, and last week was very frustrating, and I think I'm going to change some of the way I do things here at the studio." I was working as a graphic designer. And he said, "But my contract says if I want to terminate your thing, I should pay you this." And I was like, "Well, I can work for another 2 weeks, And he's like, "No, it's okay. Just tell me where this one file is, and I'll see you later. Thank you very much." And so missing that flight essentially got me fired, but I got a payment which allowed me to buy a car. It also gave me more free time to work on music and be able to like turn the volume of productivity on that up. Plus, I was so easily able to transition into my coffee job. I literally just asked Dan, I said, hey, are there more hours? And he's like, oh, actually, man, we're looking for someone. I need help on a Monday as well and a Tuesday. And I was like, whoa, I would have struggled a bit to quit my job, thinking like, but having the rug pulled out from under me worked. And I can look back at that time being like, missing that flight and being so fucking stressed in the airport was actually one of the best things that happened to me in in that period of my life. It really allowed this like next modulation of change.
Do you remember we had multiple conversations? Me and Dad would have multiple conversations, and we would always say, like, you'd come home and you'd complain about the job, or you'd be like unhappy. Clearly you weren't happy with the situation.
It was a tough job because it required 9 to 5 creativity, and then I had to turn that creativity
to music.
On to music.
But I also just don't think that the work you were doing was particularly inspiring. And I remember discussing like being kind of frustrated with how the
things had changed a bit.
How the business, how things was kind of sitting, how you were sitting with the business. But so often we would say, man, go get a new job. Like, it sounds like you really don't like it. Fuck it off. And that's way easier said than done.
And also, I had found a new job, but it was only 1 day a week.
Yeah, but it feels like you might not have ever made that decision to quit because I feel like you were thinking about quitting for more than 6 months. Like, so we would have had conversations. You were just like, fuck this job, man. And you maybe felt like you were stuck in it, or you had to do it, or you owed something.
It was a good job.
It was. And then that thing happens, and it's like the universe can tell that maybe you're not up for making that decision, or that you might not make that decision. So the universe goes, I'm going to help Jeff in this circumstance and give him this little touch. And all that touch is give him a bit more fun so he doesn't think that he has to go to the airport a bit earlier, or make him forget that he has to do an online check-in. And then that ripples out into where we are now. Because if you had stayed in that job, what if he'd said, I need you for an extra day because the work ramps back up?
I would have said no, but I think my happiness increased exponentially leaving it, getting away from sitting in front of a computer all day. There's so many knock-on effects.
Yeah.
And also opportunities that started coming our way because we could dedicate more time to it and stuff
absolutely.
Like that. Yeah, that's a real inflection point. Do you have one of those?
I feel like all my inflection points,
or even just a little universe nudge into something that's like, whoa, I don't think if that happened, I wouldn't be where I am.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but where my mind goes is more like friendships. So like decisions to go to a party or talk to someone at an after party. Obviously the classic one's Carl, just deciding to talk to Carl more.
And then him coming to our show and us being like, man, Shock One's here. And then him being like, hey, I've noticed you guys around and I talked to you. Would you like to play on these shows that me and Fetster are doing? And we were like, man, this is good with the best. And that was a good little job.
And just like, I don't know, talking to people when other people weren't talking to them, or saying yes to doing things that led to friendships. I don't know, I think about, but I guess that's not necessarily an inflection point. It's just like making a decision a long time ago to reach out to people. Yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Something that it's not so much an inflection point, but like your decision to go to London could not have happened at any other time.
Yeah, it couldn't have happened before.
It couldn't have happened before, and it couldn't have happened after, because you would have got too old for the visa, and before we weren't ready to send you. The creative wasn't there to work apart, and also the shows in Europe weren't there to sustain you.
Yeah.
So it's like you moved at the exact moment.
That was the only time that we could have done it.
like 2 months before, 1 month after. Like
yeah, but
that.
not years. It wouldn't have worked.
You weren't going to move 2 years before or even a year before.
No.
And now look what happened with COVID and everything like that. That is unfortunate, but I hope that you can look back on this period and be like, what did I get from that? Because it couldn't have happened any other way.
Yeah. I think everything has to be viewed like it couldn't have happened any other way. It's quite funny. My friend recently broke up with his girlfriend. And we kind of started hanging out a lot more, maybe like the last year or 6 months before I left to go to England. And he had just got into this relationship or getting into this relationship. And we were kind of talking about the end of my old relationship and the beginning of his new one. We kind of helped each other through this. It was like a year period. I only met her once. I leave, essentially don't come back or don't see him for a long time. And then I came back and we had a beer the other night and he's like, oh, I just broke up with her. And then we kind of go back into our old habit of talking about relationships and he's asking me questions about how I felt because he coached me through when I broke up with my ex.
Yep.
And he heard my pain and struggle and guilt and all that stuff. So then I was there to hear his. And I said to him, I was like, it's kind of weird that I never knew you guys as a couple. And I only was here. My only knowledge of the relationship. You know, they've been overseas. They've gone traveling together, done all this mad shit together. The only thing I know of the relationship is you and me talking while we either have a coffee and have a swim or have a beer. And I go, maybe this is the reason why I came back. Maybe this is the universe saying, like, this was the right thing to do. Beyond the show, beyond future tours, beyond music. This was just like another confirmation from the universe being like, your friend needed to talk to you about something, and this is why you came back. Because he broke up with her like literally the week that I arrived back in Australia.
Maybe not the reason, but it's further confirmation that universe is saying you're on the right path, Jonathan. You're in the right place.
Yeah. It's one thing is never the reason.
Yeah.
But it's further confirmation that the universe is saying that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. I think we're doing the right thing by doing this podcast, Jonathan. And once again, I'd like to say thank you for sharing things with me and listening to me share intricate details about missing a flight from Sydney from 5 years ago.
No worries. Thank you for listening to me, as always. We'll be back next week.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought it was roundup. But yeah, it should round up.
It is.
Yeah, we'll be back next week with another conversation, possibly with a guest.
Well, Jonathan knows something I don't. Thank you very much for listening. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, tell your mum, and buy some tickets to our reunited show if you're in Perth. If you are not in Perth, hopefully we'll be able to come and see you sometime soon.
Wherever you are.
And thank you very much for your kind words about this podcast and and enjoying the conversations that we have. And we love having you as flies on the wall, so to speak. People in the room.
People in the room.
Yeah. I love you, buddy.
I love you too, buddy. Have a great day with me today in this video. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app and keep up to date with all new episodes. They're going to be coming out once a week. We are Ekko and Sidetrack on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Ekko Sidetrack. Go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, or wherever your ears consume happiness. Lots of love, people.